Okay,
We're
we are
live.
here.
We are here. Yeah. Hey. Welcome to Tex-Trek, y'all.
And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas. Yes.
Yes.
Ho, ho,
Happy
ho.
holidays.
Happy holidays indeed.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. So we're supposed to tell everyone what happened for Christmas, right? I guess for the holidays for us.
Yeah, I suppose that's must. If they turned up, they must not have enough Christmas in their life and need more Christmas. That's the only reason they'd be doing this on Christmas Day.
You
So,
set it up. We need a little Christmas. Hey,
uh,
it's a small world. How's it going? By the way, I saw you the other day on Starfleet Boy. Thanks for stopping in there and giving us your rating. That was very cool and chatting with us there. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Brian, what'd you get for Christmas?
well, to be honest, it's been enough stuff going on that about 2/3 of the presents still haven't been opened.
Oh, nice.
Uh, but I picked up the art of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, um, which is basically
Oh.
all the art and graphic design that they did, and photographs of the props and sets and stuff. Which that's on certain days of the week, that's my favorite Star Trek movie. So,
I hear you.
um, and
Is that a new book?
relative, I think it came out this year.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it came out in the last couple of months, but and I picked up the Star Trek Voyager 25th anniversary celebration book, which appears to be, I haven't actually had a chance to look through it, but from what I understand, or what it seems to be is the first proper behind the scenes book on Voyager that has been done since the show wrapped up. It's for some reason, CBS or Paramount seemed very shy about releasing any information about what was going on behind the scenes on that show. I assume because it was filled with scandal.
Ah,
And so I'm hoping that in a watered down version, some of the scandals will appear in this book because I love a good
that's
behind the
cool.
scenes story.
We
Um,
we have Jill, whose screen name today is Burned Out, who's, who's here, and then also Alexandra Sundu's here as well. Happy Festivus, Alexandra Sundu.
Happy
Uh,
Festivus.
yeah, looks like we got a pretty good audience. When Father gets back, I guess we'll do the intro and get going. I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff to talk about.
We
Um,
just we're just fresh off of Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh, how was that? I mean, without getting into spoilers.
I'm still processing it. It felt like a dream. I don't know. It was a weird experience.
Well, you didn't say
Honestly.
nightmare, so I guess that's
No,
something.
no. It's interesting. I think we're gonna talk about it later on Starfleet Boy After Dark, which we've named Starfleet Boy 1984, by the way. So that's the episode title. I just realized my lips are stained with wine. We've been, it's been a festive day, and so we've been having a little bit of wine here and there. And I just
Oh.
realized I look like I've been drinking wine. Sorry, audience. I look like a wino today.
Well, if you like the episode, you won't be whining too much. Um, what did you get?
I got a bunch of good stuff, mostly just like clothing refreshes, like essentials, like stuff like that. But then I was lucky enough to get these Apple AirPod Max, the new headphones. Like my old
Oh,
ones were like in pretty terrible
oh,
shape, and
these
so
are your new shiny new headphones. Oh,
my
very
new
shiny.
cans as they say. Yeah, they're pretty
Yes.
cool. I'm impressed with them. It feels like there's this thing called transparency mode. Have you heard of that?
No. Nope.
So it simulates, it like uses there's like 9 microphones on it that simulate, like, that are able to pick up the environment around you, so that it's like you're not wearing headphones at all. It's a weird
Oh,
experience. Yeah. Like somehow it picks up everything, and it's just like you can even tell where sounds are coming from. It's like a really strange and weird experience. And then of course
can,
it has the noise canceling mode as well.
can you amp it up and have hearing aids?
I think you can use like an app on your phone to do that, but no, not like inherently in the
Uh,
but it is odd because right now I have this transparency mode. I'm hoping that I don't yell as much as I did before, because with my old headphones, when you have them on, you kind of are louder than normal because you are you're not able to hear yourself, right? So with these,
Yeah.
oddly enough, now I hear myself, so I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm a little too loud. So hopefully it'll improve the broadcast experience. Although Father always says that my levels are low when I deliver my audience.
So yeah, these
audio.
headphones might not actually help at all.
It's true. It's true.
Uh, oh
Oh, cool. Burned Out is watching Generations later. Oh, you're not gonna stick around. We're gonna be talking. Oh well, we've already Burned Out's talked about this episode a lot. She's probably burned
yeah.
out, but yeah, Generations is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
If Die Hard gets to be a Christmas movie, so does Generations.
Yep. Fair enough. Finally got around to seeing the Star Wars Lego holiday special, which was cute. It was fun. There was definitely some cute moments in there. I like the kind of low energy, the somewhat subtle reference to the Christmas in the Stars music album that was released back in the 70s with Anthony Daniels singing.
Oh, okay.
That I think was my favorite of all the little references in there, just because that I have a copy of that on my computer and I play it every Christmas. It's really fantastic. Cheesy, but not nearly as bad as the original holiday special.
Yes.
It's just silly as opposed to awful.
I remember when I was a junior or senior, it was a senior in high school, you could send away like certain, who makes Special K? Do you remember what cereal brand makes Special K?
Kellogg, right?
Yeah, so if you could collect the tabs from Kellogg, like the proof of purchase from Kellogg's boxes, send them away, and they sent you on VHS the holiday special. I think it was like before George Lucas got wise to banning them.
I didn't think that thing had ever had a release.
Oh, I'm conflating it with something else. Never mind. That was to send away for a special R2D2 or 3PO figure. You're right. It didn't have it. But I'm imagining something about that and the Christmas special is connected in my weird mind. So I'm not sure what it is. The holiday special, I should say, not the Christmas special. But yeah.
I also, by luck, my rewatch of Doctor Who happened to more or less intersect with David Tennant's first Christmas special showing up right about now. So I fine-tuned the audio drama and episode order or sequencing a bit so that me and my wife got to watch the Christmas Invasion with the cigarettes last night. So that was fun.
That's where he loses the hand, the famous hand that keeps coming back. I think that A Christmas Carol is the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol after A Muppet Christmas Carol. So like the Matt Smith. The one where...
is it really an adaptation or really or an homage? I think it's really an homage.
It's got like all the elements though. It's so like even like you're right, but I feel like it has all the elements. It is an homage, I guess, but
yeah, I mean they're really not trying to do exactly that. They're just kind of saying, well, if it happened in the world of Doctor Who, here's what might be like. But that said, that is easily my favorite Christmas special. That is so by a mile. I honestly am not that huge of a fan of Doctor Who Christmas specials. They're okay, but that one is a brilliant piece of work. And I say that even though it breaks some of the most fundamental rules of Doctor Who in it. So that should really annoy me and upset me that they're trashing continuity so badly.
What did it do specifically? I can't recall like how it would trash continuity.
Well, the basic rule of Doctor Who time travel is thou shalt not change history as thy knows it.
Yes.
With a caveat, unless you know somebody's already screwed it up and you're trying to fix it. And in that episode, they throw that rule out the window, and anytime the Doctor finds something he doesn't like, he just nips back in time and changes it over and over and over. He's changing history over and over and over again in that story. And the Reapers from Father's Day don't show up and eat everybody or anything. And you kind of just have to say, well, it's Christmas, and and it's such an amazingly well done piece of storytelling that I'm willing to forgive all of that just so that I can get to enjoy.
Especially the rewriting bits, like how they did the thing with showing the old film and then him being rewritten like in the present, and then like seeing it happen in the past, and like he needs the password for the vault and he comes, all that stuff. It was like Really well done. I have to admit. I think that it's a Christmas miracle, and that's why it was forgiven. I think that's the way it's supposed to be, and the doctor somehow tuned into it. I'm gonna give it. You're right about that, but I give it a pass as well.
Yeah, no, and I mean, in the end, the rules on Doctor Who are primarily there to facilitate good storytelling. They're not. It's not like Star Trek, where the continuity is actually a thing unto itself that is a work of art of some sort. Doctor Who's continuity tends to be accidental rather than intentional.
Audience, let us know how your holiday season's been, and if you celebrate Christmas, if you got any Christmassy things you want to share about Christmas and your favorite Christmas stuff. So Star Trek's never really done like an overt holiday special.
I mean, I think there was a Bajoran episode where they were kind of doing a Bajoran thing that wasn't all that far from Christmas, but
interesting. I don't remember that one. I'd have to.
But
DS9 and I are
I want to say Luxana Troy was in that one, but I might be completely wrong. So, but yeah, they don't seem to, aside from a few references here and there, they certainly don't devote whole episodes to the celebration.
My father accidentally streamed his music into my room. That was really
welcome
weird.
to the future.
Yes, it's true. That's not good. I got him a HomePod Mini for Christmas, and now I'm regretting it. I think I have to put it on a separate network or something. I don't know, so that he doesn't accidentally do that. But that might be a new thing that happens during these streams. Is accidental music might play in the background.
I have to say, for the first half of the day, I had the Darth Vader on fire Yule log thing on my big TV, just kind of crackling away while I played goofy Christmas music. And then I discovered there's Doctor Who versions of that, which the BBC America put together with like fireplaces inside the TARDIS. And it's got like the Doctor wanders in every now and then and does something and then wanders out.
No way.
Yeah, I was like, hey, that's awesome. So I put that on, but I just shut it all down for the podcast here. But that's kind of the acoustic ambience we've had around here. Played Ode to Joy just to celebrate Die Hard.
Oh, that's really good. Oh, 1 second. I need to go put a kibosh on the speaker situation because it's gonna keep playing here. But while I go off, I think there's some comments. But also, the other Christmas special I really like is the one with the Christmas armistice.
No, that one that is actually a pretty good episode as well. It didn't hit me in the feels quite the way the Christmas Carol did. So.
My favorite Doctor Who, if we're going to talk about Doctor Who, my favorite Doctor Who Christmas special is the one that you said that you don't really like that much. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, or whatever it is. It's like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but it's like a play on that.
Yeah. To be fair, I have only seen that once, and maybe I'll feel wildly different about it when I watch it again. But it definitely struck me as that was the one where I was like, maybe they should just stop doing that, making them Christmas themed. Can we do specials that are Christmas themed? Because I think they're running out of gas on this concept.
You know, the first time I watched that one, I wasn't really impressed by it, but I've rewatched it several times, and I really love it. Okay. I think it was more like after I'd come to like Matt Smith a lot more as the Doctor, and then going back and seeing it again, I think that might have helped.
I'm definitely interested in seeing if, as I do this rewatch, the things that bugged me before, are they still going to bug me on the rewatch as I work my way through things, which is very slow because I'm also doing all the Big Finish audios and stuff, so that slows things down a whole lot. Do we have the team?
The team's here.
The three wise guys are in the room.
The three wise guys. I love it.
Well, I think we are ready to go ahead and get started then, because we are here to talk about Star Trek as part of the hashtag TQIF lineup. We will start things off with some Star Trek Discovery talk. We got a new episode to talk about this week. And then later you can come hang out with us over on Starfleet Boy's channel for Starfleet Boy After Dark. But we've a little bit of a delayed start here, so without further delay, we'll go ahead and officially kick things off. But I'm Fathery.
This is Brian.
And this is Starfleet Boy.
And this is Tex-Trek. My opening credits aren't playing for some reason. What's going wrong?
And this is Tex-Trek.
I keep clicking on it, but it won't play.
It's a Christmas miracle.
It's a Christmas debacle. Here we go. Bow now, bow 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 bow. Don't 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 There, we did it. That was an impromptu a cappella Tex-Trek theme song.
I was wishing I had a little starship I could have been zipping across the screen and stuff. There are none of them are within reach.
Since this is Star Trek Discovery, here we go.
Oh, there we go. Yes, disco.
Oh my gosh, it's a Christmas episode in the truest sense. It's very homemade today, audience. Here she is. There she is. This is the old Discovery. It's not the refit. I can't wait to see how Eagle Moss solve the separated.
Well, they do attach some of the time. So will they just have them in attached mode, or will they have like a hunk of transparent plastic in there?
I think that's what's going to happen, where you can like move it out and back in.
They don't see much for mobility. In all the Eagle Moss I've seen, they never have any moving parts.
Yeah, they've never done anything that has any type of movement in it.
Yeah, so it would probably be. They might try to double dip and sell you both versions. First, they'll sell the nacelles attached, and then they'll sell them with a little transparent plastic stuck there.
There's a very easy way to do that, though. You just make the stand where you stand all three components on it separately.
Oh, okay.
But then you can't fly it around and play.
Yes.
You can't. You just have to hold all three of them separately.
Yes. Well, with your first hand, you hold the main primary hull, and the second hand you hold the right nacelle, and with your third hand you hold the left nacelle.
You have to have a friend help you with it.
Yeah. Yes. Teamwork.
I think the
teamwork.
Are ready to roll now. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Let's see if it works.
Ah!
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 129th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time. And tonight we are here to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 11, Sukhal. Not to be confused with the title we thought it was going to be called all season long. We thought episode 11 was going to be called Citadel, but no, it turns out it was going to be called Sukhal. So, what do you know?
Think someone leaked it thinking it was called Citadel because they couldn't say Sukhal
Right,
or whatever?
I think that was probably a placeholder title, and then they like changed their minds here at the 11th hour for the 11th episode.
Nice.
But yeah, this episode was written by Anne Cofell Saunders and directed by Norma Bailey. I believe this is each of their first contributions to the Star Trek franchise.
Oh.
And to recap the episode before we talk about it in detail, I'm just going to read the official synopsis and then kind of expand on that with spoilers. But just real quick, here's the official synopsis. Discovery ventures to the Verubin Nebula, where Burnham, Saru, and Culber make a shocking realization about the origin of the burn as the rest of the crew face an unexpected threat. And so, yeah, just to expand on that, they finally go into this Verubin Nebula where they knew the burn probably came from. While there, they find the crashed Kelpian ship with a survivor, an infant born 125 years ago, and now he's grown up as like kind of this 120-year-old feral child, has never experienced real life outside of a holodeck kind of recreation of things. When the program has broken down, the entire planet is exposed to a lot of radiation. Just going there is a huge obstacle, just to be able to set foot on the ship and meet this individual. And it appears that he might have been the cause of the burn. We don't really know the details. While they're investigating this, Osira shows up. She's out to get the Discovery spore drive and actually captures the ship. And we end things with a big cliffhanger with Culber and Saru left on the planet with our new character, Sukal. And Burnham and Book in Book's ship. They're aware of, the Discovery's just been captured, and, what are they going to do? It's going to be up to them. And that's the cliffhanger. Oh, and
Yep.
Adira is there with Saru and Culber as well. So, opening statements. Let's just each, kind of say how we feel about this episode. Brian, I'll let you go ahead and kick things off. What do you got?
I guess first I want to say, especially the holodeck stuff is visually stunning. Perhaps the color palette could be expanded upon, but for the all the different locations were all very striking and memorable. It wasn't just a bunch of noise like sometimes happens when they get carried away with what they can do with those green screens. It was you felt like you could, it was all very striking, and yeah, and the visuals for a lot throughout the show episode were quite good. I mean, I guess the theme appears to just be you have to, how do you deal with fear, I guess. I felt like I wasn't sure. I normally like the characters stuck in a dreamscape that is somehow supposed to reflect their psychological nature in some ways. And there's definitely this idea that the holodeck is playing out this program designed to test your ability to overcome fear. But it didn't feel like it went much deeper than that as far as any sort of comment on the human condition. Just, running away from fear doesn't work is awfully stale, I guess. And I was hoping, I kept thinking there's got to be something more, but I kept coming back to, well, I suppose this is probably a very meaningful episode if you were raised by computers, but it's hard to apply to, it felt hard to apply. So, I didn't hate it. It was fine, but I kind of felt like I need to see the second half to really figure out what this is all about on a bigger level than just, nuts and bolts, who lives, who dies.
The second and thirds, because I think this is kind of the 3-part season finale that we got.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I liked it, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of substance under all of the running around.
Yeah, definitely style. I agree with you on the visuals, but yeah, perhaps style over substance, you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Anything else?
Yeah, no, that's pretty, as far as overview thoughts, I guess. I mean, everything else we'll probably get to as we go through.
Cool. Starfleet Boy, you're up. Can you give us your opening statement?
Yeah, sure. It was a weird episode, but I liked it for the weirdness. I just don't so. Yeah, I guess we'll get into it more in the deeper discussion, but just like an opening statement, I do like what Blue Spark wrote about I was waiting for the Goblin King to show up because it did feel like the Labyrinth a little bit with those stairs and stuff like that. No, there's a lot of things that I really like about this episode, but it doesn't seem like it's finished or that we know everything. And I think I'm gonna venture to say that this is a three-part. This is gonna be the three-parter, like a three-part story rather, that takes us home. So obviously the next one's gonna be tied in, but I think also the third one's gonna be tied in. And I don't know what is. I was kind of losing interest in the burn, but now this episode kind of made me reestablish that interest because I can't fathom how a child is connected to all this, or like a child like Kelpian who's not a child is connected to all this. So like that's really interesting to me. So I'm really hoping that it delivers in terms of an explanation that I find satisfactory.
Okay. And yeah, for me, I was pretty confident that this third to last episode would be when we do get some explanation of what is the burn. I kind of predicted that would be the structure of the second half of the season. And then I thought we would get like a 12th episode that sets up the finale, and then the 13th episode would just be the big season finale. What I was not expecting was for them to combine kind of all three of those into a 3-episode arc. But now that does appear to be the case. So we're going to have this big 3-episode long ending to this season. The specifics of this episode, though, for whatever reason, there were several things that just bothered me. It just kind of threw me off my first time watching this. And I'll try to point those out as we go along, kind of scene by scene. I'll try to remember, the exact things that bothered me on my first viewing. But then after I kind of saw the entire thing and knew everything in context, when I rewatched this to take my notes, I didn't have the same issue with a lot of that stuff that I had before. So what I did like was that we got our holodeck episode again, which we haven't had one of those for a long time.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it's
cool. I used to complain about that. I used to think that they did that too much. That I was glad when Enterprise was like, we're going to do a ship with no holodeck. I was like, yay, it's about time, because Fairhaven was definitely jumping the shark with the holodecks.
How many years has it been since we last had a dangerous holodeck episode, or at least?
Well, technically, Lower Decks did it, but
yeah, that's true. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah,
a lot of holodeck stuff in Lower Decks.
So yeah, not long. A few months.
A few months. Yeah,
seems like longer.
But
I guess
the thing that they did right, both in Lower Decks and here on Discovery, is they made it a little different and fresh and put their own spin on it, and it's something that we haven't seen much of in the last 20 years. So that was kind of cool. I like that the Kelpians are going to have kind of like this larger role to play in Star Trek history if they're tied to like this big cataclysmic event. Although that kind of makes you think, oh, well, maybe Saru should have just left the Ba'ul keep eating his people if they're going to end up causing the burn eventually.
Wow, Father.
That's kind of speciesist.
By the way,
blame the whole species for one of them makes a mistake.
But I like them having some elevated use in the story other than just being Saru's people. So that was kind of cool. And
the
like you
were
said,
mentioned.
Brian, yeah, the Ba'ul were mentioned, so I'm glad that they're like using that part of the canon. They didn't forget about the Ba'ul. And I loved the visuals. This is one of the best looking episodes of Star Trek ever.
It was really truly that.
Although I also agree with you on the color palette, it does get a little dark and murky at times, especially when I was like looking at some of these screenshots. It's like, oh yeah, I would have liked a little splash of color here and there. However, the effects were beautiful. The locations that they were able to create were beautiful, and I pointed out a few episodes ago, it kind of looked like they were like saving their budget for some big stuff at the end, and so I think here is where they're really starting to show it off. We'll see more of this holodeck world in the next episode, I'm sure, since we have so many primary characters that are staying there at the end of this one. But speaking of that, I love the cliffhanger. I am kind of on the edge of my seat wondering what's going to happen next. What's going to happen with the ship? Is Starfleet headquarters in danger? That Osira made it sound like she's going there. So, who knows what's going to happen. I am eager to see the next episode.
I will say about the color palette, which I sort of made my peace with, is that this reality is supposed to be lacking something. So by making it almost a black and white world, it highlights the artificiality of the place to some degree in a way. I think it would be a lot more powerful if we hadn't seen so many movies use this desaturated, almost black and white color palette.
I would say too many
drama.
movies at this point.
Yes, I agree. But here you can actually say, much like, Pleasantville or something, where they literally make it black and white, they're actually using the color to say that there's something off, like intrinsically off about this place, rather than it's dark and gritty and awesome.
Dark and gritty and awesome.
Yeah. Grim dark.
That's
Grim dark for life.
Star Trek directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
God, I hope that never happens.
Yeah, yes.
Oh
Knock
my
on
God, I
wood.
hope that never happens. Well, let's go ahead and dive in.
He's listening and he's going to do it to spite you.
I hope not. Well, yeah, I'm just going to start us off at the very beginning with things that happened before the opening titles, and we'll discuss that. Just real quick, we pick up where the last episode left off. So if this is going to be a 3-parter, I guess it'll technically be like a 5-parter, since we're picking up right where the Terra Firma 2-parter ended. But yeah, literally what appears to be mere moments after that, they're having the memorial service for Georgiou in the mess hall. And Adira kind of seems a little out of place, but she has some they have some parent-child bonding with Stamets. And then all of a sudden, Gray returns out of nowhere. Gray and Adira kind of catch up. Gray explains why he has been absent for so long, and Adira seems to forgive him. But Stamets gets a notification on his TRICOM badge. The computer has figured out there is a life form detectable in the Verubin Nebula on the Kelpian ship. And Saru says, "Oh, it was the baby. That captain was pregnant. Those were the red marks on her head." So they spore jump to the Verubin Nebula and try to enter the nebula, but it's so radioactive and stormy, and the ship can't cut it. And Saru is determined to get to this surviving Kelpian. And it really concerns Burnham that he's kind of so lost his objectivity, and he's just got tunnel vision. But she convinces him to let Book go. So the Discovery launches Book's ship and jumps out of the nebula, and Book is able to do his cool little maneuvers with his transmorphable ship and get through the nebula close enough to not only find the planet that the Kelpian ship crashed on, but he finds a clear patch for the Discovery to jump to. He's in a lot of danger from the radiation, though. He passes out. His ship makes it back to the Discovery on autopilot. They analyze the data he brought back, and it turns out this ship crashed on a planet in the Verubin Nebula that is pretty much made out of solid dilithium. It is just saturated with dilithium. And Burnham concludes this must be what caused the burn. So what do y'all think of this stuff?
They weren't in a big time crunch at the beginning of the story. I mean, so why didn't they take the time to get Grudge off the ship before they flew into the radiation zone? I thought that was a little irresponsible. I thought it was slightly weird that they didn't bring somebody to go along with Book. Probably Michael would have been the obvious choice, since she knows how to fly the ship. But I was like, okay, whatever. But leaving Grudge on board kind of makes me feel like that Book's not a good pet owner. So that sadly was my biggest reaction out of the opening, was that when we later learned that the Grudge was on board the ship. I liked that we had some more solid technobabble that you can wrap your head around. As far as how this all works, especially if you're paying attention, you can see, okay, if you hit the clouds, then you get all irradiated. The radiation is all in these clouds, and the ship is so wide that it keeps smacking into these clouds as it flies through, and Book's ship is all narrow and can slip between the clouds. So, it wasn't just, my ship can modulate the deflector or something to make the thing work. There was a palpable reason that a 12-year-old could easily understand if they, were paying attention and thinking about it.
I like
so,
the CGI too. I like Book's ship in action.
Yeah, no, it looked good. He seemed to be well. I guess he had to fly through it fast because he has to get back out of there. It's really the pilot episode again. We have to go into a radiation storm, and we got to do it quick before Book dies instead of Michael dies. I kind of almost expected to see that radiation fixing machine show up when they got back aboard the vessel. But
they mentioned it. They talk about the
spooler, the respooler, right? Or
recombined DNA.
Combined DNA.
I thought the payoff for Gray's reappearance was kind of underwhelming, but it also felt like not everything that needed to be said had been said. So maybe they will pick it up next episode and pay it off, because it kind of just Gray kind of just shows up and says, being a ghost is weird, but I hope you made some friends while I was gone. So and I was like, really? Because and so I kind of hope they did more with that.
I also think for me the Gray thing, I was excited to see Gray because I really like the character, but I just don't know where they're going with it. It's just like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe my interest is not in it fully. I was glad to see the character back though, so we'll see where it goes. But there is a hint there with Gray saying that they're not quite. They don't know quite what they are. Like they're not quite the same as the other symbiont memories or symbiont spirits or whatever they are. And so I wonder if there is going to be a storyline maybe next season. I can't imagine they'll wrap this up this season, but maybe next season of some way, finding some way to get Gray's consciousness back into the physical world.
I think that's going to happen this season. I think they're setting that up.
Oh, you think it's going to happen this season?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they don't really plant seeds for like long term on this show. You know, normally if they start like foreshadowing something, it's going to happen. So just as I said last week, that I think the season will end with Burnham as captain, given that final goodbye with Georgiou.
Yeah. Stress 3K is like SFB is getting it. I guess I am. I was resistant to it. I just didn't want another death and resurrection.
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a resurrection though. I think they're going to have some type of cheat. I think maybe even like using this holodeck, like maybe like Gray will get reconfigured into a hologram.
Oh, that's something like that. Bad.
It's a really weird family. I don't mean weird in a bad way, but just like a kind of a cool and unique type of weird, like a Keep Austin weird type of weird. with Stamets and Culber. It's like okay, yeah. So not only are they like the first like true same-sex couple that we see like continuously in Star Trek, but they're also like one of them has tardigrade DNA. The other one is a mushroom zombie, and they adopt this teenager that has merged with a 1,000-year-old worm, who is dating an other teenager who I think is gonna turn out to be like a hologram ghost.
Who also harbored the same worm. The other team. So it's like
I got a kick out of Stamets when he's being like protective of his kid with the Dira, where he's like, "Do you know what you did to them? Like, if I could actually see you right now, like you'd be in a world of trouble after what you put my kid through." I thought that was funny.
That was kind of a fun part as well. And then just like the mystery of the Verubin Nebula is pretty cool. I think it's interesting. Like we don't know what the Kelpians' lifespan is because they used to get culled after, like once they started reaching puberty or whatever the Vaharai is. And so now we get to see that like Kelpians can actually live to be very old. There's that one elder that we see later, but just in general, like we're gonna see that, and I like all this stuff coming up. I don't want to skip ahead, but this was a cool opening.
Unless you're an Ocampa, I would just assume that like at this point in the Star Trek universe, like most people are gonna live longer than 120 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, even in Picard's time, we frequently see humans older than that in the 24th century.
It's also not, another thing I liked is it's not often, I think, that we get like a direct the episode starts right where the last one left off, which this one does, which was interesting.
Well, not without being an explicit two-parter of some sort.
Right, exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah.
I will say, when you were talking about the Gray situation, two thoughts. One, this is never mind, that doesn't, now that I think it through, it doesn't work. The other thought, if this was a Brian Swift role-playing game, I would absolutely have Adira and Gray would take turns using the body. So, oh, you want to interact with the other people? All right, I'll just let you drive for a bit. So that's the way it would go in my games. But
that reminds me of David Tennant and what's her name, Zoe Wanamaker in it's exchanging bodies and
I mean, I don't know if that's actually where they're going with this story, but you could certainly have a lot of fun with that.
That would be an interesting thing too, and I actually wouldn't mind that, but then they don't get to have the satisfaction of being together, which is like, they don't have that now, but whatever.
Well, all good romances need a tragic element.
It's true. Yes, that's true.
Not if you're going to put them on TV,
That's why all my romances will not be televised.
I don't see that happening in the show, but I mean, it's possible. I haven't seen any indication of that.
No, you were there the moment Gray said, I don't have any way to interact with the world. I was like, oh yeah, I know how they fix this. And you just take turns using the body. You work out a timeshare or something. So,
but yeah, I did think it was a little bit of a weak excuse, but I agree that there might be more.
Yeah, I think we might get that readdressed, like a bit more, where, if nothing else, maybe Dira, jumps on Gray and said, that really pissed me off. So, or something like that.
But to be fair, that would be kind of awkward to be the one who's like, I always feel like I'm not really in the room because I don't get to. Now that I'm saying this out loud, it's kind of like how Adira felt a little bit out of place. They're having this memorial service for Georgiou, and all these people have clearly known each other for a long time by this point, and she is a little bit left out, like she's the outsider, and that's kind of how Gray must feel all the time.
Did you really feel that Saru was going overboard when flying the ship in? I mean, because there have been so many examples of captains, pulling the flyer apart then card.
I wasn't necessarily bothered at that point, but later in the episode, he just compounds his.
And even before this, in Terra Firma, they were laying the groundwork for this a little bit. But I think the show is trying to tell us that Saru is not the best captain.
I guess. I don't think that's what the show is. I look at that scene and I'm like, we've seen so many other captains do exactly that I didn't feel like that.
Well, and I don't think the show's trying to tell us that he's not ready. I mean, he is a young, he's an inexperienced captain, but he was co-captain under Pike, if you'll remember. So he certainly had that experience.
Well, they kind of dropped that after the second episode of
gotcha.
Season 2.
Okay. So. Well, still he definitely has a little bit more experience than just I don't know. I think you're right that he is inexperienced, but I don't think the show's trying to tell us that. I think the show's trying to tell us that he's compromised, and I think we're gonna find out why. I don't think he's told us everything. He didn't.
It could be that he's compromised, but the overall the show wants to make the case that Burnham is a better captain than Saru.
I don't think it does.
These last 3 episodes are going to try to make that case.
At the end of this,
I don't know if
it might not work. It might not work, but that's what they are trying to do.
I mean, given how when Michael fails, it's because she is emotionally compromised. If that's the way they're going to get Saru to fail, they're going to have to work really hard to outdo for that pot to be blacker than that kettle.
I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it'll work, but I don't
think that's where it's going. But I'm curious to find out. But I do want to say though, he held back about the Dr. Issa being pregnant. He didn't say anything about what those spots were when he could have said it a long time ago. He waits till now to say it. There's just something weird going on with Truth. I think there's something about these Kelpians, and I'm gonna stick firm on that. Something about these Kelpians is off. this whole thing is off. Saru's off.
Well, it could just be the writing might not just be what you need it to be.
I'm willing to accept that. Yeah, I'm willing to accept that. But I'd rather wait to know. Yeah, I'm very curious. Let's just say, to see how this all wraps up. It could be either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. I have no idea.
But yeah, because to me they've made it clear like a couple of times in the Terra Firma 2-parter about like Saru like not wanting to report to the Admiral and some of the stuff here with how he's putting the ship in danger to the point that it concerns Burnham. I think what makes this different than like the Sulu going like then fly her apart then is because when Sulu's doing that, he doesn't have another bridge officer, staring at him like no, like are you serious? Like this is gonna get us killed, and then like talk him into like stopping that. Like whereas here we do that. So I think that's the difference is that it's framed as the risks don't justify the rewards in this situation.
Well, yeah, but the point is, as you've just outlined, the reason Saru is wrong is not because we see him do something wrong. The reason Saru is wrong is because Michael says he's wrong. And I feel that's a weak way to go after the character when if the only reason we know he's doing something wrong is because Michael tells us he's doing something wrong. Then how wrong can it be?
Yeah, and there might be a better way to handle that with, well, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that the show kind of built Saru up. I would almost say like too quickly to be like this, like great captain. We weren't seeing enough of him doing like really smart, clever command decisions and stuff. Where I mentioned at the beginning of the season, like I wanted to see more of that, and then they kind of a lot of. They were telling us Saru's, the best fit for captain, not showing it, and then now I kind of feel like they're kind of rushing to switch the tables and put Burnham in the captain's chair and show like this is why she is better than Saru because Saru, he can't handle this Kelpian stuff.
I make a
Burnham
prediction.
could be the one to save the ship.
I make a prediction we're gonna get a surprise captain at the end of the season. None of them are ready. They're gonna throw someone. They're gonna throw a new captain at us at the end of the season. It's my prediction. I think I'll be wrong, but
my prediction is that Burnham will be captain in 2 weeks and less than 14 days. So like it or not,
we're gonna find out.
That's gonna happen.
I will like that. I'm just saying it's a weird decision after all the it is a weird decision. We'll talk about it at that episode though. We shouldn't spend too much time speculating, I guess. Right?
Well, yeah. So let's move along. We get a little bit more of that though in the next scene where they are discussing the Dilithium planet, and what a miraculous find this is. They actually do open up with Admiral Vance and keep him informed here. They have a holographic meeting with him and tell him that they want to go in. Saru says he himself wants to go beam down and try to investigate this life form and hopefully save this life. Admiral Vance says that Kaminar is in danger, that the Emerald Chain is doing military drills near Kaminar now, and that's probably just a trick to try to get Saru to jump the disco there. Meanwhile, in sickbay, Dr. Pollard has treated Book and Grudge, so they're fine now. But then Burnham has a little conversation with Book in the corridor where she says, I'm really concerned about Saru. I think he's lost his objectivity. I'm very worried that he's not going to be able to see straight. In engineering, Dr. Culber and Stamets have this conversation about Culber going on this away mission. Stamets is very upset. He's like, no, you're going to be in danger. And Culber says, like, I need to go. I'm the only person who knows what it's like to be alone in like this weird world where you don't belong. And I can really help this person. And Burnham and Tilly have a little heart-to-heart conversation before the away mission where Burnham tells her the story of Captain Georgiou and the burr that's in the side of the captain's chair and how she would use that as kind of a tactile way of grounding herself. And I don't know if it makes a ton of sense or not, but I kind of like the the emotion attached to it, the idea.
That was my favorite scene in the segment that you're talking about, actually.
Oh, this is one of those things that bothered me the first time I watched it, whereas like I didn't really like this. But then when I watched it again, it wasn't that bad. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of a cool idea that like, Captain Georgiou would pass this down to Saru and Michael, and now like they can pass it down to Tilly. And
it's kind of Dumbo's magic feather,
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's like you touch the magic burr on the captain's chair, and you'll be like a strong, confident captain.
Yeah,
I think it's funny that the.
And now I wonder, did Michael just make all of that up?
Yeah, well, not just that. Like,
well, no, it's obviously there. We see it there later.
Well, no, obviously she would pick something that would actually be there. The feather is real, but is the story behind the feather real?
But the burr that I just think it's funny that there's a manufacturing flaw that's like in two different ships that are like that's the part that I found a little funny, but I didn't care. I guess.
Especially after we see the close-up of it, I'm pretty sure Saru just wanted one there because he liked it when it was on Discovery. So because it really looks like something that's been stuck to the chair. It does
because the prop department actually stuck something there.
Yeah, but I mean, they tried so poorly that I can only headcanon it that it was something Saru missed his burr and stuck it there.
I need this burr.
They also needed something to be like noticeable on camera. It'd be distinct.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about these other scenes? We have the meeting with Vance, then we have sick bay stuff with Book and Burnham, and we have the engineering stuff with Culber and Stamets, and then the Tilly and Burnham conversation.
I guess I had. Oh, sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say the meeting with Vance was also interesting because he's like kind of like, again, he's not really like stepping back, but you could see in his facial expressions that he's a little like put off by these decisions that Saru's making.
He's concerned about Saru also.
He is concerned about Saru also, yeah.
Like when Saru is like, yeah, like I need to be the one to go down there. He's like, okay, well, Kaminar's in danger. He's like, oh, I need to spore jump over there. Like I get it, like he's protective of his people. But yeah, Admiral Vance is a little concerned about Saru's judgment.
I think. Well. I mean, he's trying to rescue this kid guy who's been there for 100 years. But as soon as he learns that there's a much bigger good of the many situation, he immediately says, "Oh, well, never mind. We'll come back and deal with this later. We should go deal with this other planet." All of his decisions are, I mean, yes, is he emotionally motivated? Yes, but all of his decisions seem pretty sound to me. And when they don't, it's only because he didn't have a full set of information to act on. And when he gets that information, he immediately revises his decision. So again, we're down to Saru's making a mistake because somebody on the show is saying he's making a mistake. I did think when they said that the emerald chain had showed up over Saru's homeworld, my first thought was, oh dear, are they going to genocide the Kelpians? Because I can totally see that that's something that happens, and now these are the last two Kelpians, and I could see that as this big tragic thing. I don't know if that's really where they're going to go with it, but
I don't think so.
And Saru blames himself for not going there and helping out.
That's dark.
Well, the Emerald Chain, it would give the Emerald Chain some incredibly strong teeth. We'd be like, oh my goodness, these guys do not frack around, So that did cross my mind as just a possible idea. I'm not sure if I'm really confident that that's at all where they're going. So
I do think they give the Emerald Chain a little bit more credible threat in this episode, though. Like they actually the Emerald Chain actually beats the good guys in this episode.
Yeah,
we'll get into that later, but sometimes you have to give your bad guy a victory just to remind you of how dangerous they are.
Well, that's why I thought the genocide of Saru's homeworld might be that victory.
The show needed something big like that. The show needed something big. I think capturing the ship probably fulfills that.
Yeah.
And that would be my preference over like erasing the Kelpians.
No, I kind of feel like it's a little harsh to just use them as a quick burn them off as a story point. Seems a little.
I know what to expect in one of your role playing games though. Now, like if I see that, it's like mirror my homeworld.
Yes, yeah. If I'm trying to raise the stakes, quite possibly, yes. If I want something that big and epic. I did feel also again that it really feels, and my wife who was watching as well felt it, has said it so too, irksome that Michael's the one running around saying that Saru is being overly emotionally attached to the issues and not being objective, when that's kind of all we've seen from her since season 1 in some ways. And I'm like,
to quote a later scene though, projection, right? Like
I was like, it definitely feels like there's some projection going on there. And I felt it was also very ironic that Michael's the one who's pointing this out, not one of the other people who have been shown to be a bit more level-headed, or perhaps even Book, who is the outside observer who sees the big picture because he is he's outside of the command chain and he can look at things, and that would have been an interesting choice, is to have Book pointed out.
Book was really stellar in this episode. I like this scene that you pulled up because I just love Grudge, and I like that there was like this thing about favoring his paw and to check it out and all that. That was like a really good, because I know when you go to the vet, you tell your vet all these things like that you've noticed, and it's probably nothing, and Dr. Pollard kind of gives that look of like, okay, I'll go and do that. I'll go look at his I'll go look, I'm sure he's fine. The last scene I guess from this segment was the Stamets kind of appealing to Paul not to go down to the planet, and I was saying this in my stream that I really like that scene. I was kind of like, even though it's a volley with them, it keeps going back and forth, right? Stamets is either the one having to sacrifice or either Culber, like it's like kind of getting to be a thing between the two of them, but it did work still, I thought. And I was concerned for that. And I'm actually a little anxious now. I'm anxious about Saru and I'm anxious about Culber at the end of this episode.
Well, honestly, Stamets' situation isn't much better than Culber's.
Right. Actually, yeah.
They're both,
right.
They're both
it's really,
danger.
Yeah, you're right. It's all kinds of fracked up at the end of this episode.
No, which is where you want to be as you're coming up on your season finale if you're doing arts.
True.
I as a side note, while I was watching the Grudge and sickbay scene, I had to pause the thing to go get a drink or something, and my wife was all like, no, don't pause it there, pause it on the cat. So I backed it up and paused it on the big close-up of the cat before I left. I will probably always remember that whenever I watch the scene from here on out.
That's pretty funny.
Talk about the actual away mission. But we have our away team that's going to transport to the ship on the planet. The idea with like all the ticking clock stuff, which I like a good dramatic ticking clock. I bring it up a lot. But the radiation in the nebula will destroy the Discovery's shields and then, I guess, endanger everyone on board the ship. So it can only exist in this nebula for short periods of time. It can show up to like drop everybody off, but then it has to go away for 3 hours to repair the shields. The away team will start getting like seriously sick from radiation within 4 hours. So they need the ship to be able to get the shields repaired and come back. Dr. Culber explains that, they have like some medicine to like slow down the radiation poisoning, but after 4 hours, they're going to need more. They have these little radiation trackers that they have on their uniforms. So Saru, Culber, Burnham beam down, and Tilly assumes her position in the captain's chair. When they arrive in the ship on the planet, though, they are in this very weird-looking location. They're in like a snowy forest, and Burnham's a Trill, Culber's a Bajoran, Saru is human and actually played by Doug Jones. And they're finding all these malfunctioning holograms. So they're clearly on a holodeck that has gone awry. The radiation is deteriorating the programming. Find this weird MC Escher staircase, And while they're there, they come across a Kelpian stacking these weird little icons. And this is our missing Kelpian. This was the baby born on the ship, but now
I can't believe I
adult.
thought this was Doug Jones. When I I don't know if you saw that. I thought the whole time I thought it was Doug
was just
Jones.
going to give you a
playing-
pass and not bring it up that you
Thank you.
said
No,
that.
I know. I just want to say now I watch it, and I watched it a second time, and it was totally obvious that it's not
Yeah.
him. I don't know what was going on with me.
Yeah, but he's still very childlike, even being like
Yeah.
this old adult. So when they start acting weird, asking him these weird questions, he runs away like a scared kid. And this scary door, they apparently like they summon the monster, he says, as he runs away, but like the door burst open. So they have to decide, what are they going to do? They decide to split up. Burnham is going to go see whatever is on the other side of the scary door, and Culber and Saru are going to go check on Kelpian childlike adult man-child guy. So what do you think of this?
I really love that they did the topsy-turvy with their species. Obviously, Saru was the most notable one. And to give myself a pass, I thought Doug Jones was doing a thing where he was going to play the kid and the old guy. Like, I just thought he was going to end himself. Like, I just thought it was going to be, and Saru. So that's where my mind was at 3 a.m. when I stayed up to watch it. So that's why I thought it was Doug Jones. But yeah. But I did like all this, and it actually made me think like it would have been cool if actually Culber was Bajoran from the beginning. Like he plays a Bajoran, he looks the part of a Bajoran.
I don't think there were any Bajorans in Starfleet in the 2250s.
I know,
Yeah.
That's true. You're right. You're right. Not in Starfleet, but they would have been around, I guess, right? Like I guess they were occupied by.
Yeah, we don't know. Wouldn't have been occupied yet, but we don't know when first contact with them.
So it's preoccupation.
Yeah.
But anyways,
According to the maps, Cardassia is farther from Earth than Bajor is, and they did have some Cardassians had interacted with, say, Vulcan and stuff in the 23rd century. So it's not completely outside the frame of reference, that, especially since the Bajorans were supposed to be pretty hot shit before the Cardassians
right
came
before
along.
the Cardassians came and ruined
so I did also love seeing Saru Doug Jones out of the makeup. That was great.
Yeah.
I honestly I just watched the DS9 episode. What is it? Children of Time.
Where Renee.
Yeah, and I felt like annoyed that they didn't just go full on get all the makeup off of Renee. I was annoyed at that, and then I saw this episode, and I was like, yes, they did it right this time. So
I always wanted to see this. From like season 1 Discovery. This is a better idea than probably what I don't know if better, but it's a different idea than what I always thought it'd be cool to see like the Discovery crew come to like modern day Earth, like be walking around like Earth in the year 2020, and like Saru have to somehow be like disguised as a human.
That's insane. Yeah. I like that too. But this this was good though, and I really liked. Doug Jones should do more roles. I think he's in Space Command, and I'm sure he's done many other roles where but for the most part he's a makeup guy, right? So I'm glad to have seen him in this role. And someone in the audience, who was it just now, said that this reminded them of Pan's Labyrinth. And yeah, there was a huge vibe of that, and Doug Jones happens to be in Pan's Labyrinth.
So it's the Labyrinth and Pan's Labyrinth.
And Pan's Labyrinth, yeah. You remind me of the Babe.
So Doug Jones is the next David Bowie? Is that where we're going?
He could do it. He could pull it off, I think.
I don't know. I'd have to hear like some of his music.
Or like in the Flight of the... Isn't it in the Flight of the Conchords that Bowie comes... Hey, like I can't do it now, but
I never saw that.
Oh, you got to see Flight of the Conchords Fathery. It's a great show. Have you seen it, Brian?
I think I've seen one episode, which I enjoyed, but I just never got around to tracking any others down. But yeah, and I enjoyed. I think some of them worked on. I think I've seen some other stuff that those guys worked on that I enjoyed.
Yeah,
as well.
I think not to digress too far, but but this was a cool set too, just in general. Like I saw from a video that CBS published on YouTube that one of the sets looked almost all built out. Like it was pretty cool. There's not some of these things are definitely CG, but there's also a lot of actual elements here. They really did a good job with the sets, even though they're dark.
Now, let me ask you all this. Why did the holodeck computer want to disguise them as other species when we know that this guy has been exposed to other
At least
Kelpians and
Vulcans.
probably humans? I mean, it turns Saru into a human, so obviously, like, humans are okay, Kelpians are okay. Why did it need to disguise their species?
Or well, you
No,
start?
I was just gonna say that was one of the things I was wondering about. So if you have an explanation, I want to hear it.
My explanation at this point is just the computer's a bit nuts after all these radiation, and it's probably got a setting rather than having to go out and change into your Dick Tracy clothes before you go on the holodeck. It's probably just got a setting that gets inside your head and does all of that stuff automatically when you enable the setting, so that you, even if you're a Tellarite, you look like Dick Tracy, you feel like Dick Tracy, you're wearing Dick Tracy clothes, you see Dick Tracy.
It's very
Or no, Dixon Hill, not Dixie Tracy.
Dixon Hill,
Dixon
right,
Hill's the
yeah.
one I was trying to say, but yeah, it came out wrong.
That's
Anyway,
a whole new way of holodecking, which I'd never thought about, and it makes complete sense. It's very
Well, they did
cool.
that on Enterprise. They did that on Enterprise, and it showed Riker in the holodeck. He doesn't change clothes to go be chef. He goes from his TNG uniform.
That's right, and they just think he's chef. They see him as chef, right?
Those episodes are terrible. We shouldn't talk about them. Sorry, Sean.
So, but yes, this is in the 32nd century, the idea that such a setting exists, I have no problem with. The idea that the computer automatically enables that, I just put down to the computer being crazy. The downside of that is part of the reason I'm unsatisfied with the episode, is that for this arc, so much of the drama is just the computer's crazy. Why did that happen? The computer's crazy. Why did that? The computer's crazy. There's not a lot of meat to that, and that appears to be the main threat. Even our moral story of our bit of Kelpian mythology appears to still be kind of tangled up in, and the computer's a bit crazy. So do we even know if the holodeck safety? There's no reason to think the holodeck safety protocols are offline. I don't think. So far,
yeah.
I mean, they might
don't
be.
See anyone get hurt. I mean, they're getting ate up by the radiation, but I mean, Burnham survived that fall. So
yeah, that could even be seen as the safety protocols kicking in. So, and one would assume that by the 32nd century, the protocols would be a bit more robust than what they are in the 24th century. Do you think I doubt this, but do you think that we are going to learn that the holodeck is reading what's his name? Sukal, is that how you say it? Sukal's mind in some ways, and that this is all going to be a bit more meaningful than it looks like, because right now it just looks like random glitches. But if it was actually playing off his brain pattern or unconscious in some way, then it would be a lot more interesting.
It could even be simpler than that. It could just be like, oh, well, his mother, knowing that she would die, programmed this program to kind of respond to his emotional needs and react to whatever he's feeling. And it's obviously started to break down over the years. I don't know how they're going to tie that into the burn and all of that stuff, which is the thing I'm most iffy about on this episode. But we're not going to have a ton to say on that yet. I think we're just going to have to wait till next week or maybe 2 weeks before we know for sure.
Another thought, if the holodeck is getting inside your head a little bit, then that would explain why they can't just say, well, I know the communicator is here, even if there's a hollow shield protecting it, they probably still can hear us, because they said we left with the comms open, so presumably they're still listening in even if we can't. And but if it's actually getting inside your head, so you literally can't feel any of this equipment or use any tricks to get access to it, then that starts making a bit more sense. And with the 32nd century holodeck, it's entirely possible that that's what's going on. I did wonder if they're even actually, they keep saying hologram, so I assume it is actually a holodeck and they're not just standing in an empty room with some light beams coming out of the ceiling hitting them in the face, and all of it's happening in their heads.
32nd century ships and spaces seem to be holodeck like, in the sense that programmable matter kind of can turn, like how in the Federation headquarters, the Starfleet headquarters, you could just make a room out of a non-room, and it turns into a catwalk sometimes or whatever.
Well, if you can afford it and you have the technology, why not put a holodeck projector in every single room. Then you can customize
the whole ship could be just like a hollow ship.
Yeah.
In fact,
They talked about that in the episode where they arrive at Starfleet headquarters for the first time. They're like, "Whoa, holy moly! There are entirely holographic ships here."
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Like
true. I'd forgotten
it's
about
just
that.
a frame. That's scary, man. If the power goes out and all
The power never goes out in Star Trek.
If the power goes out on any ship, you're screwed, right? Like even when they're like, "Oh, like the power is down," like, well, the power is never like 100% down. Like they always they still have gravity. They still have like some level of life support.
It's true.
That's what they did. They hooked the holodecks up to the gravity power source so that it almost never fails because it's too expensive for it to fail. The 0G shots. But yeah, they presumably have a much safer systems in the future. But anyway.
Well, shall we move on then?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to ask y'all. And that is when Saru says, is it like normal for a human heart to, feel like this when I'm looking at height or something like that? And then earlier when he's like, my hooves are like touching the ground. Do you think like this holodeck might have like reconfigured their biology to make them like physically different so that they would have like these physical reactions to stuff?
I assume it's just
century.
Yeah, I assume it's just getting inside their head and sending their brains specific stimuli to fit whatever it wants them to feel.
Yeah, it would be really, I feel like it'd be an amazing thing that if you could just reconfigure a person like that, but I would think that it's more that like he feels he has a human heart. It's not really there.
Yeah, I mean, we
like
could learn
his
separately.
brain's being convinced that he has a human heart.
But you think they would, if that was possible, you think they wanted to lay the groundwork that that's what's going on. You think somebody would just say, well, I read about the fact that the holodecks now can rebuild you into a completely different species. I would think they would throw in a line like that if that's what they wanted to indicate was actually happening. Whereas they actually talk about holodeck masking their equipment, I think is a phrase they use.
Yeah, that's what they say is that it's masking it. So they still have all of their medical gear, they just can't find it.
Yeah,
right.
Which means that if they'd come properly prepared, if they'd known what they were beaming into, they could have some sort of automated anti-radiation drug dispenser that was hooked up to them.
Oh, yeah.
And that would, but of course they didn't know about it. Yeah, they just didn't know what they were beaming into. And
Adira seems to have a clue because later on she swallows the medicine, right? And or puts it in her mouth. They put it in their mouth and then beam over, right?
Well, I thought that was that after they had, no, they didn't establish
that was like the end of the episode. That's like one of the very last things we see.
Yeah. No, you're right. I don't know quite how I don't know how she figured that out off the top of my head. So,
well,
what's going on in that scene? Oh, the rock. That's right. Yeah. This is the monster.
Next we have Burnham going after this creature. We see like this weird little smoky monster thing, and it ends up chasing her through the crazy stairs. She falls off or falls up, I should say. She starts like floating up. And somehow, like, she ends up passed out on the ground. She wakes up, and Sukal is like there right next to her, and he's kind of intrigued. He's like, "Oh, I've seen all these programs so many times. You're a new program. I thought I didn't have any new ones left." And she kind of like calms him down and says that she's a program to teach him about social interaction. And the two of them have like a little bit of a scene where she's trying to milk information from him, and when it starts to freak him out, he goes crazy again and he runs away. Then Hugh and Saru walking around, they find this holographic program of the Kaminar admission to the Federation ceremony, which looks really weird because there's no Kelpians or Baiul there, but there is a Vulcan who gives them a little bit of exposition. He explains, oh yeah, like our holodeck is trying to look out for this guy until rescuers show up, or you're the rescuers. The whole time it's glitching out, and they also meet a hologram of a Kelpian elder. And Saru explains like, oh yeah, these guys are really cool. They would like tell us all the stories to the young Kelpians. And they find like this artwork, I guess, that SoCal made as a kid of like a Kelpian family. And Saru is like really taken by this elder, and he wants to like look at the storybooks and hear a lullaby. But they find out that the Kelpian SoCal, when he's scared, he runs off to like this one little specific sanctuary that he has in the holodeck. So that's where you can find him. So what do y'all think about like Burnham and the monster, Burnham and SoCal, and then Saru and Dr. Culber's journey through the holodeck?
I had a question. The sequence of things. So the ship crashed, and then the kid was born at pretty much the same, around that same time.
Right.
Is that right?
Right, and then the kid was 4 when the burn happened, I think.
And when was the transmission that we see the glimpse of that they pick up and decode?
Well, that would have been before he was born, because she had like the red pregnancy marks.
Right,
on
she was
her head.
pregnant.
Okay, so the ship crashes, then the kid is born after that, and then apparently they're hinting that somehow the kid triggered the burn. So then that would have presumably happened after birth.
Presumably like when the mother died is
now they keep mentioning the kid. I thought they mentioned something about the kid being 4, but I didn't quite. What 4?
He would have been 4 when the burn happened.
He was 4. Okay, so then the kid sat on the ship for 4 years before the burn. Why did nobody rescue the ship for 4 years?
Well, there's this whole thing from a previous episode where there was a ship that was responding to the distress signal, right, Fathery? Like there was some kind of ship that was responding, but we don't hear anything about that. And then also, so whatever happens, I'm guessing the mother died, and that's what caused the emotional outburst. That's
what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. But okay, so a Starfleet ship goes down. They send another ship to go look for it, and it disappears or something.
A Federation ship goes down, and then they sent a Starfleet ship
and then it was it unable to find them, or was it
that unclear?
Yeah, it might have had trouble with this nebula. It seems like it's kind of a pain in the ass to go through.
I mean, it just feels odd that they would give up on them, especially when there's a transmission that may be hard to detect from the other side of the galaxy. But if you're sitting right in front of the nebula, it's probably not that hard to pick that up.
I wonder if it's still in there somewhere as well. Maybe the Starfleet ship is also maybe it's not people are no longer alive on it, but maybe they're floating around in there somewhere too. I don't know. Yeah. It's unclear. They didn't say.
All right. And so, ship crash. Baby born. 4 years later, burn happens. Presumably, rescue ship happened shortly after it was launched shortly after the crash, and not 4 years later. And then, and then I guess the ship just sits there for 120 years. Okay.
Blue was saying, I did think that scene was weird that there were no Kelpians or Baul, like you said, Fathery. Blue was saying that I love those uniforms. I wish those were the Picard era uniforms. I think
which uniforms?
Really cool. The ones in the ceremony.
I didn't like those. They're too gray. I want more color with my.
I liked them. I liked them, gray and red. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, you could imagine them being.
I'm hoping that those uniforms never existed. I'm hoping that those are just kind of a weird holodeck malfunction.
Well, yeah. When was Kaminar supposed to have joined the Federation? Because they had the modern comm badges on those uniforms, if I recall.
Yeah, but I don't think we can
relatively recently. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's one of my Gorn eggs. That like the first character we see, the first hologram we see in the episode, like her uniform makes no sense at all. It has TNG stuff, it has Discovery stuff, it has Enterprise stuff. So these uniforms are insane.
It makes the case for the. That's good. Yeah.
So we're back to the computer's a little nuts, which is perhaps why some of this feels unsatisfying. Is there's nothing more to it than that so far. The computer doesn't, it just seems to be trying to do its best it can, but it's also a little nuts. This is the one where, This is where we learn about the myth or the Kelpian myth.
Right, the kelp creature, the kelp monster.
Yeah.
And
That
we meet grandfather Willow. I mean grandfather Kelpian.
Again, like they're using like the same Kelpian actors again and again. Like we had Saru's sister come back for Dr. Isa, and now they have Saru's dad come back to play the Elder. It's the same actor.
That's why they all look the same to me, Fathery.
that does explain why he thought Saru was playing Sukal, or Doug Jones was playing Sukal.
Yeah.
The myth didn't make any sense to me. It's a myth designed to teach the children to stand up and confront the things that they're afraid of, but pre-revolutionary Kelpians never did that. That would have been absolutely.
They did
the
though.
call, yeah.
In the brightest star, like they explain, like when they have to face the culling to go sacrifice themselves with the watchful eye.
Ah, okay. So this is a how to allow yourself to be called myth.
Yeah, this is like propaganda to like basically like guide the sheep to the slaughterhouse.
Okay. All right. Okay, that makes way more sense. Thank you.
It's also funny to me that when they have like the storybook picture of the Kelpian and the Baiul like holding hands, and it's like this like ugly slime monster, but it's like eventually like they do learn to be friends together.
Yeah. Yeah.
About
it. Sure. Monster. Yeah. Why not?
I didn't notice that was a Baiul. Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
The little thing that they're stacking up, it kind of has like the same like triangle head.
The watchful eye.
They have the watchful eye. So
interesting. Alexandra's asking if dilithium's paranormal or magic. It doesn't. It has
no
properties.
There's no magic in Star Trek.
Fourth dimensional or something like that, but not magical.
Yeah.
It has fourth dimensional properties, if I'm not mistaken.
That's certainly in the expanded universe. I'm not sure if it's ever been put into canon.
Oh, canon, right? Well, we might get that because of all this weird shit with the burn and connecting to a person. You know, like
they still haven't. Well, let's see. They still haven't explained where that song came from exactly either.
That has.
I mean,
so much.
They kind of did. That was the signal. That was the signal that the Kelpian message was on.
But the message when we hear it doesn't sound anything like she's singing it or something. So why?
Well, they have like that graphic. They have like that graphic of the sound waves. And they're like, oh yeah, like it matches this.
Yeah.
Wait, so the music thing is gone. That's not going to be a thing anymore.
Well, I don't know. At the moment, if they never mention it again, I'm going to headcanon it that Crazy Computer put Crazy Song in there, though that doesn't explain why everybody around the Federation or even beyond knows this song and it's incorporated it into their culture. That wouldn't explain that. It would just explain why when the first time you hear the message, it sounds like a song and you have to do some work to tease the fire.
It should have been we didn't start the fire.
It's an honest, insane computer. It doesn't want to lie. It was involved in starting the fire. But yeah, I don't know if they're just decided that that's all we ever need to know about the song, that somehow it got into everybody's heads across the Federation without any explanation.
That's kind of weird.
I would be disappointed if they drop it there, but I can also see them dropping it there. I would like more explanation though.
Yeah, like why is it in everyone's head? That's what I want to know, actually.
Yeah, well, if dilithium turns out to be psionically active, then that would certainly explain
it. Yeah.
But it's not something we've heard of before. But the fact that the kid gets emotionally upset and it somehow works with the planet and the nebula to create these burn blasts. There's something psionic going on there, or the ship's computer is reading his mind and then transferring that into some sort of signal that the dilithium can respond to, or the nebula can respond to, or both, or a third is that uses those tools.
Right.
So it does sound like there's something psychic going on, but it could just be advanced sensors reading the mind. Yeah. So do we have any speculation as to what sort of science we're going to get to explain this burn is going to be, or are we just we're going to wait?
I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time on it though. I don't think the show wants to focus on those type of details. Although they have done such a better job with some of the more techno babbly things, as we've pointed out this entire third season. So
Yeah.
I could see it possibly being something that they do a little differently this time around.
Yeah.
Culber has a theory about it when they're all talking about how there's that one scene, I guess, where they realize after the kid has that, we keep calling him the kid, but he's really not. But after Sukal has the outburst or whatever,
we should call him Baby Saru.
I know.
But he's not a baby. He's probably older.
Yeah.
I never got the impression that Saru was well over 100 years old. Yeah. If anything, I always thought he was fairly young, given his relationship with his dad in The Brightest Star.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I just think Culber. I can't remember the exact thing. Maybe you do, Father, but when we get to that scene, but Culber seems to come up with some kind of quick thing that seemed to hint at a possible tie-in to something scientific later. He was starting to formulate something in that scene.
What are you talking about?
Remember? I'll have to cue.
But what was he saying specifically?
I'm trying to remember, but it was something like, "Oh, if he grew up with the epigenetics and the blah blah blah."
Well, that explained how he
yeah.
he survived the radiation. It didn't explain anything really about the burn, though it
right?
could turn
But I'm
out
saying,
to be connected.
like, I'm saying they might be going there. Like Culber might be starting to formulate all these ideas about the epigenetics and all that stuff, and it might turn out that he's somehow linked to the planet. And not to speculate too much, but maybe that's the thing, is that he can't actually leave.
The idea that
Or is
they
it like-
left Culber behind does imply that the mystery is going to have a strong medical component to its unraveling. So good point there.
Yeah, so Culber will come into play with that stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be weird if they explain it as the dilithium properties and like radiation and all that stuff had like an influence on him when he was in development and then when he was born. And so now, for whatever reason, like his emotions can cause the burn that destroys dilithium across the entire galaxy, or renders it inert, or whatever it does. I mean, that's kind of annoying.
It wouldn't be too far from Superman, who gets his powers from our yellow sun, right? Like,
but it is far from what we traditionally do in Star Trek. I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, it does feel like a little bit more like comic booky to like do things on like that big of a scale with that shaky of science. And for me personally, I love when comic books do stuff like that. Like I go to it for things just to be like bigger than life and just kind of ridiculous in their scale and so grandiose and stuff. But that's not what I like in Star Trek. I like Star Trek to be things that humans are presented with, like these very weird things, these very complicated problems, but they're always something that we, by working together, by using like these traditional Star Trek values, can wrap our heads around and kind of tackle and deal with and solve. And so to me, it clashes. Yeah.
I wonder if there was enough dilithium dust in the air that it contaminated the kid when the kid was gestating, and he's just got enough dilithium in his body that he can somehow, mentally interact with other sources of dilithium. I mean, just to spitball as to how I might, if somebody told me how you have to write part 2 of this, that might be the direction I'd go in.
and the other thing I just want to remind everyone of, because I had to remind myself, is that the burn wasn't the dilithium exploding. It was the dilithium going inert, which is what caused, if you were in warp at the time, or if you were running your warp engines at the time, that's what would cause the explosions. And you see that in this episode later, when Stamets kind of realizes what's going on. He's like, we got to stop the reactor and reroute the power.
Was some excellent techno babble. I was like, wow, they totally understood the mechanics of all of this and had it all thought out in a way that even Next Gen and DS9, which tended to be some of the better techno babble shows, might not have thought of that. So I was actually very impressed. A 10 out of 10 for techno babble in this episode thus far. So, I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, I want to pull up these screenshots, but my computer does not want to cooperate right now.
Ah,
Oh,
I saw the look of consternation on your face. And I was like, well,
Technical difficulties.
the next scene, I guess, is you showed you shot. I guess the next scene is they're on their way to the Citadel, right, or the fortress.
I want to talk
if you will.
about Tilly. I want to talk about Tilly.
Oh,
and Osira
yeah, let's.
bit
Oh,
before
I
we get to
love.
the ending
Yeah, I'm
stuff.
excited to talk about Tilly. Actually, I really loved.
But yeah, while all the stuff is going on the holodeck, we do see like back on the ship, Tilly and the rest of the crew, Stamets and engineering, they're working to get more power into the shields. They're trying to get the shields back online as fast as possible, and they have like the signal of like an incoming Federation ship. They're really confused about why would they be out here. What's going on with the ship? Why won't they respond to us? Until he figures it out, like, oh, it must be Osira. Like right when she shows up, she's there to capture the Discovery. We find out that the Discovery has a cloaking device. They both ships cloak immediately. They're kind of in hiding, and they have like this little bit of a confrontation on view screen of Osira kind of talking shit to Tilly. Well, you're not Captain Material. You don't belong there, and the ships are forced to decloak when like the stuff that happens at the
mini
Citadel
burn, we'll
goes
the
down.
micro burn, yeah.
They on the holodeck, Culber and Saru proceed where the Elder told them to go, to like this tower. It's like out in the far reaches of this program. It looks like they have to cross like this cool floaty bridge, and there's a lot of like really neat stormy visuals. It looks awesome, but I wish I could show you a screenshot of it.
I could see it being like a video game. Like it was kind of
it's like where you go to fight like the final boss or something. They get
Ready
there.
Player
Burnham
10.
is there, and that's where the smoky monster thing kind of shows up in front of Sukal, and he freaks out, he panics, he screams. These shockwaves erupt from there, knocks the Discovery out of cloak, knocks the Osira ship out of cloak, and they're thinking like this must have been what caused the burn. It messed up the dilithium. Stamets had to be like, shut it down, and we're going to blow up. So yeah, it's possibly capable of doing the same thing on the galaxy level again. So what do you think of that stuff?
Did they verify that their dilithium had in fact been deactivated? Because I got the idea that once it was deactivated, it's kind of useless. But
they have that giant storage room of dilithium. So
and they
but if the wave hit all of it, it all might be deactivated.
Oh, I thought. I don't know. Maybe.
Pardon me. And they have the ability to recrystallize dilithium too. So maybe if it doesn't go fully inert, they can rescue it.
It was clearly a much lower level of pulse. I did like that. As I had suspected, apparently you do not need your dilithium or your matter antimatter reactor running to use the spore drive. It is a relatively low energy type of travel, at least compared to warp drive, which I had been expecting that was what we were going to see and have that confirmed.
But you do need dilithium to cloak, and I like that you can't cloak and spore jump at the same time. I like that they had that limitation, which kind of makes sense. If spore jumping is low energy, why can't you do it while you're cloaked?
I think the cloaking field probably interferes with the energy of the cloaking field. Yeah, it could certainly, because cloaking fields, once Rick Sternbach wrote them up in the Haynes Bird of Prey manual, and I got to read what the somewhat canonical, quasi-canonical expanded universe explanation from the people who work on the show and wrote the technobabble on the show. Cloaking fields are really weird. They're this odd multi-dimensional transference of energy from one side of the ship to the other. They are some really exotic stuff. Way more exotic than what I thought. So it struck me as A, perfectly believable you need a matter antimatter reactor to keep it running, and B, perfectly believable that would interfere with shields and weapons and cloak and spore jumps. I did have a few questions as this sequence opened. I think it's Tilly says only one person could be interested in a planet full of dilithium. It must be Osira. And I was like, dude, everybody would be interested in this. What the heck are you talking about? just put in gold and see if that sentence makes sense. So did I miss something there? Or is that line as silly as it sounds?
No, yeah, I think that was just to make it more dramatic when Osira shows up. They could have thought that out a little bit better. But
speaking of over dramatic lines, earlier in the episode when Michael finds out something of the planet, the camera zooms in and she says, "I think this is where the burns started." And I'm like, duh, that's why you're here. Why are you suddenly shocked? It felt like it was just a moment for the trailers or for the next time on or something like that. It was just weird. Sorry.
Jeremiah is saying Tilly did a great job holding her ground against Osira. With time, Tilly is going to be a badass captain. I was very happy with Tilly, Captain Tilly, acting Captain Tilly. I think that is totally correct. I like it. With given time, training, ranking up a few times, but she does fail at the end, of course. But I think that, like I was saying in a conversation I was having on Starfleet Boy, that I think any one of them would have failed because the mini burn kind of throws everything off. Like I think she was doing pretty well at least buying time, if not if nothing else, before the mini burn happened, and then of course that just like set everything off.
See, I got to disagree with all of that. We talked about how Saru maybe is emotionally excited, but is still making the right decisions. Tilly, I feel, is not making the best decisions. I mean, I wouldn't give her an F, but I'd probably give her a D.
Wow.
And that's fine. She shouldn't actually be good at this as a character thing. I'm fine with her not being good at it, but I certainly wouldn't give her an A or even a B for she calls down and says, "How long till we have the shields?" And they're like 30 minutes. And she's like, "Do it in 10." And I was like, okay, they do that in Star Trek all the time. Cool. And then she turns and she gets the call from the bad guy. And she's like, "Let's get down to the point." And then after talking a bit and they start to drift off again, she's like, "Now let's get back to the point. Why are you here?" And I'm like, you want to stretch this convo out. You do not want to get to the point. You want to keep her talking as long as possible. If she wants to go on about
Tilly being bad, or is that just like the writers, not thinking about that?
Well, I mean, it's up there on the screen, so you
have to kind of assess it as if it was Tilly, right?
And I'm fine with Tilly not being, trying so hard to be strong that she actually kind of trips herself up in the big picture. That's fine. She's inexperienced. She shouldn't necessarily be perfect, but I certainly wouldn't give her an A for this performance.
I would give her like a B plus for sure, not a D. I wouldn't give her a D, but like I do have to say that I do think she should have jumped out way sooner, because there's no harm in that, right? Like you can you could jump to like another part of the nebula, like on the other side of the nebula, and stuff like that.
I mean, the cloaking device kind of eliminates the need to do that when you're cloaked. It's like, they're not going to be able to find us now.
She thought she was safe.
But as soon as they uncloaked, how much time does she have after they uncloaked though?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as they uncloaked and were compromised, I think that she should have just hightailed it at that point. It should have been like jump, 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 now.
And to be fair, like when I think that Osira had a way to like monitor what was going on the Discovery,
because
Tilly does jump away. But like right when she gives the order to go to Black Alert, that's when like Osira like beamed her people over to grab Stamets.
I have a question then for you. So like this sets up a little bit of an interesting thing, because like Osira does know an awful lot about what's going on the ship, and book suggests that she was able to track your jump signature, but I think there's a mole on the ship, and I'm wondering it could either be Rin or it could be Book. I mean, like,
I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's necessary to do that. I can just accept that. Yeah, she's just tracking their jump signature.
I didn't have a problem with them tracking the jump signature. I mean, it's 32nd century technology. Maybe Spore Drive is really loud. Maybe she's been investigating Spore Drive stuff herself. She seems to have a pretty good understanding of its basics. I suspect, and with an organization like Emerald Chain, there are probably spies at Starfleet HQ.
I don't think that either.
They might be
I don't think
low
they know
level.
where it is.
They might not even be Starfleet officers. They might just be Federation citizens, Federation citizens working there. But it doesn't surprise me at all with an organization as big as that Starfleet Federation nexus that there are a few people who are getting dilithium kickbacks from the Emerald Chain there, and they could have given her that any information that felt hard for me to imagine how she knew how to do this. It could easily be explained by there being a low-level spy who just reported, hey, the ship called Discovery showed up and they've got a spore drive.
She doesn't know where the HQ is.
That doesn't mean she doesn't have somebody reporting. It could even be she caught a ship and interrogated the crew. And even if they deleted the files about where the HQ is, she still might have got enough out of a captured Starfleet crew member to know a lot of this stuff. So I didn't have given the nature of her criminal organization, I had no trouble believing that she could have acquired the intel she needs to do what she does on the screen.
Yeah, well, what is it that we're concerned of? Because I didn't really have any concerns. I just assumed that.
Well, she knew right where the spore drive room was. She knew the nature of the spore drive. She knew she needed to bring a little brain thing for Stamets that could take control of him. But again, a low-level spy.
Stamets is the pilot as well. I have a question for you.
Scan the ship. She might have had sensor readings from when they met at John. Because you scan them, you're like, oh, this dude goes into this room, sticks his hands in this thing, and then it does this.
Yeah,
I have a question real quick on the screen captures. There's some logo, a circular logo on a door. Are you going to go over that in the Gorn eggs? Did you find out what that is?
On what?
On a door, like inside that room, inside that weird MC Escher staircase place in the fortress. There's like a circle window with like a weird logo on it.
No, I didn't catch that. What is it?
Okay. Huh? No, I'm just curious if you'd caught that because I was wondering just now what it was. I didn't see. I didn't notice it. There's no significance to that I know of. Okay. All right. Cool.
If someone does know, let me know. But that didn't stick out to me. But yeah, I don't know there could be a spy on the Discovery.
I'm not even saying it's on Discovery. It could just be somewhere else in the Federation. Yeah. One of the trainers or something that came aboard the ship, or probably the numerous other upgrade technicians that came aboard at some point, might have been either sold the information that what they saw on the ship and learned, or been captured and interrogated. But.
Oh, one of the things I do want to bring up, though, and I'll just go ahead and talk about like the remainder of the episode. But when the Osira and the Discovery are facing off against each other, and it's before Tilly gives the order to jump away, we see a shot of Gray and Adira talking to each other. We don't know what they were talking about, but shortly after that is when Tilly tells Book, okay, you take your ship to go rescue everyone on the planet. We're getting out of here. And then Adira goes to Reno and says, I need your badge for something. If I don't do this, they're not going to make it. And what we find out is that Adira goes over to Book's ship. And yeah, we get all that final stuff with the people in the Citadel and the SoCal freaking out and Saru having to like sing a Kelpian song to calm him down. And then Tilly gives the order to go to the Black Alert, do the spore jump, and that's when the Emerald Chain beams aboard. They put the brain control crown on Stamets. They have complete control of him. The tentacles wrap around the Discovery. The ship is captured. The crew is captured. Book makes it to the planet, but the only person who wants to beam up is Burnham. Saru's like, I need to stay here. Culber's like, I need to stay here. Burnham's like, I'll come back for you. And Culber's like, well, if it's going to be longer than a day, it doesn't matter. There's not going to be a point. We'll all be dead. Right. But Adira's going down there with medicine, so there is hope. We end the episode with hope for them and with Burnham and Book watching the Discovery spore jump away under Osira's control. with her the ship is within her vile clutches, which is Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
By the way, that was really exciting television.
Yeah.
That whole end sequence of taking over the ship, like Stamets being mind controlled.
It's painful to see that. It's painful to see them like put that thing on Stamets.
On
and,
him.
like it hurts.
Yeah.
And then it hurts to see like all the bridge crew like being held hostage at gunpoint, Tilly being yanked out of the captain's chair.
And it really worked the whole nick of time. You not reaching on time and seeing the Discovery jump away with the what's Osiris ship called again? Do you guys?
I don't think we know. Do we?
Okay.
Did Rin mention it?
I thought Rin mentioned it, but I can't be
if
sure.
Someone knows, give us a comment. But I don't think we know.
Yeah. Give us a comment about it. But yeah, anyways, that was all very, very exciting. I thot it was very well done. And
do y'all like Osiris more as the villain now? I know before we kind of thought she was a little generic.
I feel better about
twirler.
They're definitely
better about Sarah.
They definitely have figured out that her angle is she's really smart. That is the angle that they are trying to use to distinguish her from any other mustache twirling villain, is that she's, really, really clever. And that's not a bad angle. I don't know if there's much more to her than that yet on screen. Is that totally ruthless and very, very clever, but giving her an almost Sherlock Holmesian level of cleverness is at least the sort of challenge that our heroes are going to have to work to overcome. And you judge a hero by the quality of their adversaries and all of that.
And she does have connections. I mean, like, to pull this off, she probably did. Like, she probably went to some astrophysicist and was like, okay, I need you to figure out how I connect my ship to their ship and spore jump and make it work and all stuff like that. But I don't have a problem accepting it. I think it does work. I just assume that she does have those capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, possibly with advanced 32nd century sensors and 32nd century AIs doing super fast analysis of those sensor readings, that you effectively have somebody who's a computer that can just tell you how it all works within seconds. We have not seen anything like that on Discovery, and there's that raises some questions as to why doesn't Discovery have one of these computers, but I'm fine with, I don't have a problem with it, whether it's a spy or some super sensor. I did think it was odd Adira doesn't get a badge, given that, I mean, they often give badges in other Star Trek. They've often issued comm badges to visitors. They've often issued them to non-Starfleet visitors to the ship.
I thought that was weird too.
Yeah, incredibly useful they are, especially for someone who's working in a sort of engineering capacity. Why doesn't he have a badge?
Yeah. I mean, 7 of 9 got one. Neelix got one.
Yeah, they gave freaking Neelix a badge.
And those badges don't even do anything. Those badges are just a walkie-talkie. This badge is a smartphone. Yeah, you have your tricorder and everything in there, and your transporter. It's both like your smartphone and also like your Uber car, all in one. So, it's your transportation and your interface for everything you need to do.
My hunch is they want to do and now you're a member of Starfleet scene with Adira at some point, but it's really, given that the badges are more than just symbolic in value. They could have done like Wesley, who had a all silver badge, remember, early on before he got the gold backing.
That was cool.
They could have done something somewhat different with her badge if they wanted to, or their badge if they wanted to emphasize that that they are not proper Starfleet, and they could have given the same type of badge to Book as well to emphasize that and show the.
Maybe they will. Maybe that's how the season will end. They'll have like a badge ceremony. But I did want to add a couple of thoughts. One was when Stamets does give the order to shut down the warp drive. We talked about how that was good technobabble, but I just liked seeing him, like being quick enough on his feet to be like, "Whoa, you're not gonna burn us!" I know what's going on. We're pulling the plug now. That.
And he had a great moment. He had a bunch of great moments in this episode, actually.
Yeah, I guess it kind of makes you more sad when it's like, oh yeah, I like this guy, and then you see him become like the brain control puppet, and it makes that more of a gut punch.
Yeah.
Right after a cool moment. Go ahead.
Oh, again, indications that they, in the 32nd century, have technology that interfaces with a human brain very, very well. It has no trouble. They just put it on him. Boom. He's instantly under their control.
I almost counted this as a Gornag with the Lorelei signal, those headbands that they put on the crew that turned them old and made them like their slaves. So that was a bit of a stretch, so I didn't do it.
It's a small world. Says Book doesn't have one either, and I guess Rin doesn't have a badge either. So yeah, they don't.
Was Rin still on the ship, or did he go away somewhere?
Where would he have gone? Right? Like, wasn't it just he was?
They went back to Starfleet HQ, I think, after the thing on Book's planet. So there was an easy time to get rid of him if they wanted to do so. Or he could be just hanging out with Jet and only showing up once in a while.
Yeah, he's working on those that ionic manifold system. Also.
Father, I feel like I don't know if Noah Averbach Katz watches this, but I feel like he needs to come on Tex-Trek at some point, or you need to interview him. Or something
maybe I can get a hold of him. We follow each other on Twitter, so it's theoretically possible. It's possible. I know people who have talked to him.
I know, me too.
So maybe it's worth a try.
Again, on the Tilly only scores a D level, she tells them to spore jump. Nothing happens. And then she spends like over a minute just saying, what's going on down there? She doesn't order security down there. She doesn't come up with a plan B to keep the ship safe. Will they figure out why the spore drive isn't working? She doesn't just have their security chief pull up a video feed of the room and see a bunch of bad guys in there. I thought
Brian, I think you're projecting bad captain onto Tilly because you're so defensive of Captain Saru. Well, and you know that Saru is about to have that captain chair yanked away.
Yeah, there might be some of that. The fact that everyone's picking on Saru when he's not doing that bad of a job, and nobody's picking on Tilly when she kind of is. I'll grant you that.
I think there's a degree of
salt in the wound. I'll admit that.
I think there's a degree of sympathy for Tilly because she's an ensign, and it's also Saru's bad decision to have made her an acting captain in the first place.
Fair enough.
Everything Tilly does that's bad, you can now blame on Saru.
That's fair, and I honestly feel that Tilly's behavior, scoring a D when you're an ensign, is really good. If graded on a curve, I'd give her an A. So she doesn't panic. She doesn't crumble, especially given her personality isn't exactly killy in the first place. So I'd give her an A if you graded her on a curve. She also says, I'll set the ship to self-destruct. Spore drive's not working. Does she say, set the ship to self-destruct? No, she does not. That turned out to just be, and that could have given her some leverage. If the ship was about to blow up, she could have used that to get the bad guys. Oh, okay, if we park right next to Disco and Disco blows up, it's going to take us out too. We got to back off, or they might have, so she could have tried. There are things she could have tried. She even really suggests them. She even suggests these things and then doesn't do them. So.
Well, I think this is more
cool
if
she did initiate the self-destruct, and then Osira could overturn it, though, which would have been a cool, funny thing.
I think that's just the way that they're choosing to communicate this stuff to the audience. Like, if all of this stuff worked, if they were able to slip away from Osira and stuff, I don't think we would be grading Tilly so strictly on everything she did wrong. It's just we can assume that things are happening, like she's priming the self-destruct or alerting the security chief. They just don't show us that stuff because that's not where they want to shine the spotlight in the heat of the moment.
As you guys have pointed out, if they hadn't made grade the captain harshly one of the themes of this episode, I probably wouldn't be doing this.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
You're right. This does reflect poorly on Saru. So,
well, speaking of that, there's I think another case that they're kind of trying to build against Saru is he kind of freaks out about what's going on with the ship and with SoCal and what is it exactly like when Book goes over there to rescue them. there's like a little bit of like Burnham having to be the voice of reason to Saru.
But what was
Saru wants to go back to the ship.
Saru says Tilly shouldn't be in charge in a military operation. I need to get back to the ship. That's a perfectly responsible thing for a captain to want.
It's
but
true,
if they leave SoCal to like his own devices, if Saru is the only one who can calm him down, then it's probably important for him to stay there and prevent another burn, which I think is like
Burnham is right. Yeah, Burnham actually is right. Like Saru's making the logical decision. Like, Captain goes back to his ship and threat.
Well, it's the emotional decision.
The emotional decision, sorry. But here the logical decision, Burnham is correct that like it seems that Saru has an effect or has the ability to touch Sukal. Kal-El. Sukal. So she is right about that. I was really surprised that Culber stayed behind, but it makes sense as well because of what he says about like how he was a zombie. Yeah. Well, he was the spirit or whatever.
He was isolated in a weird world.
That place,
And he also
responded to you, ironically, in a similar way that this thing is responding to Sukal. So.
And this is what I think you were talking about with when Culber says that he actually uses the term triggered, like something triggered him to call, which we're assuming was like the death of his mom. So I don't know if like maybe that smoke monster. I don't know if we want to spend any time speculating on that. Just I don't know if like that's part of the program where maybe like he's supposed to like face his fear to like graduate from the holodeck. And he's never been able to do that, or something like that, or like after like the tragedy of like losing his mom. But I think we'll get more explanation on that. Like his mom built this on intentionally to take care of him to a certain point and prepare him, under the assumption that he would be rescued somewhat shortly.
I am curious as to how Mom lasted 4 years. Now that I think about it, because apparently this place is really dangerous. But
it may have been more idyllic back then because when Burnham is talking to Sukal, it looks like they had like created like the Kelpian, they created like a Kelpian atmosphere, and it seems like he was going in the water and doing, whatever.
Right. I think we were talking about doing that. He was doing that with her. Like he was doing that stuff with his mom before she died.
The burn could have actually made the place much less safe than it was before. So that pulse could have messed up ship systems or something, and that's why it's now why they can only be there for a few hours instead of 4 years.
Now,
great point.
The last thing I want to bring up before we get into the Gornags is what do y'all think about Adira? Showing some agency and maybe a little bit of teenage rebellion, which I guess could be cool or annoying depending on how you feel about it. But when Adira tells Book, like, I stowed away on your ship and I'm beaming down to go help them, and there's nothing you can do or nothing anyone can do to stop me. Here I go. Bye.
I assume she is acting on some special symbiote knowledge that gives
they
her
acting.
Or they, sorry.
I keep doing it too.
Yeah, sorry. I assume they are acting under some sort of symbiont knowledge because they seem to have this great a whole lot of understanding about what's going on down on the planet, so I assume there's more to that. I assume they are going to explain why they ran off, and so it's really hard to judge their actions at this point.
We get a shot of Adira and Gray talking to each other in engineering before going to talk to Reno. So I think they were, during that, I think Gray might have been like, "Oh, Adira, by the way, this is going on, and we need to do this to go help them." We'll find out about it.
I know Gray's important and everything like that, but it would have been interesting to get like the other hosts interacting in this similar fashion from time to time. That's a great question. Where we sometimes like I would have liked to have seen more of like maybe Admiral Senna Tall interacting to like guide them towards Vance, how to deal with Vance, just little things like that.
You could do that actually. Because that's not like how normal Trill stuff works, as we saw in Deep Space Nine, that you actually have to like do like this specific ceremony to create that situation where you have like those one-on-one conversations. But because Adira is a human and they are going through the Trill experience a bit differently than how a Trill would go through it. That allows you to have an excuse of why it would work out that way. And you could have like this revolving door of like different personality. It'd be like they almost be like they're like guest stars. Like
right.
Who's going to be in this one? Which former host will be here? In the chat, Alexandra is asking, will Zora save the Discovery? I think this would be a really cool time to like have like the Zora consciousness really like take action.
Yeah, because it's been really quiet since
they planted the seed for that. Back at the beginning of the season.
That would be if Zora is the key to, even if it's just as simple as unlocking a door that lets everyone else retake the ship. I think that would be a wonderful way to explore Zora and make the sphere data more relevant to the story. No, I like that idea a lot. I hadn't thought about that, but now I'm going to be disappointed if they don't.
Well, we've been running for a while, so I want to just go ahead and do the Gorn eggs to wrap things up. But there were not many this week. This is pretty Gorn eggs light, but these are all of the Easter eggs, continuity connections, and in jokes that I found within the episode. If I miss any, be sure to let me know. I'll start off with the sick bay scene with Book and Grudge going through DNA recombination. That is a callback to the very first episode of Discovery, the Vulcan Hello, where Burnham has to go through a similar procedure after being exposed to radiation from binary stars. When Burnham is telling Tilly about the lucky captain's burr on the chair, she refers to that as a manufacturing glitch from San Francisco fleet yards. So that kind of is the predecessor of Utopia Planitia. A lot of famous Starfleet ships were built there, including the first Star Trek starship, the 1701 Enterprise. In the holodeck, the first hologram we meet does have the weird hodgepodge Starfleet uniform, the one that's giving a lecture on how to repair a food replicator, it sounds like. We see the comm badge of TNG and the rape pips that were used throughout the 24th century. There's also like the shoulder stripings of Discovery. And I don't know why no one on the internet has pointed this out except for me, but when we are at the crazy stairs and around like the tower in the holodeck, you see the orchids from Star Trek Picard Season 1 floating around. Those things that like brought down the Borg cube.
I thought those were Gormaganders.
No, because they have like
I did wonder if those were the orchids, but then I kind of forgot about it after that.
I wondered too, but they look like Gormaganders to me because the orchids are more like open mouth, and these had like back, right? They were like kind of, I don't know. I thought they were Gormaganders.
I'd have to see them side by side.
No, they're like this thing here.
Oh, do you have a picture?
Oops. Yeah, I just got this on Memory Alpha. I was doing Christmas stuff and didn't get as many screenshots of stuff that I wanted. But yeah, they have like the flowery mouth and then like the long like tendrils that flow behind them.
I didn't realize that. That's great.
If it'll load. But yeah, that's what they look like.
Blue says, I love the corn eggs section, and then corrected and said corn eggs. But I think corn eggs is funny.
Corn eggs are good too, Blue. So I'm glad you agree. But yeah, here's a picture of the
those. I wish you had a picture of the ones in the episode because I still think they're Gormaganders.
They look like this though.
Okay, I believe you.
Dare I ask, what is a Gormagander?
That's the space whale from that Harry Mudd snuck in. And Magic's to make
all right. So. Okay.
And then they're eating it.
Didn't even sound like a Star Trek name, but okay. Now, yeah. I don't even remember what that thing looked like. But I have to
Did I say it right? It is Gormagander, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it sounds like Demogorgon. That's why it sounds weird. Because the Demogorgon from Stranger Things.
But yeah, that's all we got. So, Starfleet Boy, why don't you let us know about what's going on later tonight?
That was the last. There was the only Gorn eggs in this episode. I can't believe it. That's insane.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Oh wow.
I mean,
okay.
one could argue holodeck malfunction is in a giant Star Trek Gorn egg, but
True.
That's true.
but
Sometimes I
Today-
count the story for that.
Today we're just gonna have a chill time over at Starfleet Boy After Dark. Everyone's welcome to come hop on there. We're gonna go on at 11, and I've already been festive, so I don't know how long we're gonna last.
11
Father
Eastern.
Eve.
It's
11
about
Eastern, yeah.
30 minutes from wherever you are
30
right
minutes from
now.
now. I've only seen Wonder Woman 1984. I don't know if you've seen it. You probably haven't, have you?
I've seen it.
Oh, you have seen it. Okay, good. We can talk about Wonder Woman 1984 then.
And I thought it sucked.
Well,
Not really.
I kind of do too. I kind of have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. We'll talk about
I
that.
liked
there.
it a
Come
little
join
bit
us.
better than the first one, which I don't really like, but I think it's kind
Oh,
of
really?
okay. And yeah, I think
We'll
the first
talk
one's always
more
been
about it.
overrated.
Over there. I think we'll just talk about our favorite Christmas or holiday films in general, and it's gonna be like a holiday special basically. So just a lot of holiday stuff going on at Starfleet Boy After Dark. So I hope you'll join us there. And then again, like I said, I don't know if you guys can. I'm already a little lit, so we'll see how long we last on Starfleet Boy After Dark. So come check us out there.
Yeah, I do apologize about some of the technical difficulties and the delayed start today. I was busy doing some Christmas stuff and didn't get to put as much time and effort into my preparation as normal.
It's all good. It's Christmas. It's
It
forgivable.
won't happen next week, even though it'll be New Year's Day. We'll still be streaming on New Year's Day. And
I love
also,
that we hit both the holidays, just like Discovery.
well, I wanted to thank everyone for subscribing. I set a goal to hit 500 subscribers before the end of the season. We actually did that after our stream last week, later that night. We crossed the barrier. We crossed the galactic
You're at
barrier.
506 currently.
So now we're on the long road to 1,000 subscribers. So people who listen to our podcast, if you could do me a huge favor and just go ahead and log on to YouTube and give us a subscribe over there. We're trying to boost the YouTube numbers. So anyone who can do that would just be doing us a huge favor. And if you want to get us a Christmas gift, that is the best one you can give us right now. But yeah, on that note, Merry Christmas, everyone. And I hope everyone has a Happy New Year. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Live long and prosper.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek and follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.